Hey guys, welcome. It's Cam with Hope to Canine. Just a couple little tweaks here so I can sit and chat with you. I'm coming in hot after going for my vaccine, and the appointment took forever. And it's been a hectic day already in general. So anyway, thank you for being on the replay. Super appreciate you being here. And we'll wait just a second for some folks to jump in live and hopefully hang out and chat with me directly. I've got a couple of questions that were presented for today that I popped in the description. I'm going to struggle a little bit to expand on the aggression inquiry because it's lacking some detail, but that should be an interesting one for me to tackle. And then April had also asked, she's on our team, about, just insight, support, ideas, thoughts for helping their senior dog who's losing hearing to, be supported and successful in their environment. And I will say that there are some definite strategies and some key ingredients to potentially having the easiest transition through times like that as our dogs age. But every dog is a little bit different too. So keep that in mind. But welcome on in. Let me know if you're here. I would love to have you say hello. I really hate the setup and orientation of this, so sorry about that. It's gonna drive me nuts. I can tell you right now the entire time that we hang out. And that's the work phone. Hang on, guys. Let's shut that down. All right. So let me start with this aggression question, and actually watch for the comments to have the team drop the auction information in there. We are so sad that our online auction is not thriving. Hey, Dolores, happy belated birthday. So happy to have you hanging out for a moment. Thank you. The online auction is only through the month of August. So if you do not cruise on over there and take a look at it and get involved and register and participate, you will miss your opportunity. It's happening only for the month of August. Galabid is the platform, and what it's allowed us to do, the information, you can pin that comment, April, if you want. The platform allows you to sign up and take a look at essentially the store that's been created. Our board of directors has done a fantastic job. Julie Feliciano in particular has put tremendous work into this, creating these. Veronica, I'm glad you're here. I'm going to get to your question, and I'd really appreciate it if while I'm talking about the auction, you would expand on your inquiry as to as much detail as you can provide me about what you're talking about. What is your dog's situation as to when they have had aggression? What was the circumstance? How old are they? What breed are they? Give me as much information as you possibly can, please, or I will not be able to help you in the most targeted way. So with regard to Galabid, you guys, this is our online virtual event, virtual fundraiser. You can sit in the comfort of your own home and go onto the Galabid site and take a look at that store. And all of those items have been chronicled for you there, photographs and measurements and descriptions and values. And you can place your bids, you can donate, you can buy raffle tickets towards those beautiful baskets that we showed you earlier in the month that are not shippable. They're for local winning only. But anyway, this is the all the items that were donated that were meant to be a part of our live in-person event, our big celebration of our anniversary of the foundation, and just an incredible experience that we were building for May of last year that had to be canceled. We had a lot of really good stuff lined up to provide for our attendees of the event, live music and food. And because that had to be canceled due to COVID, these items have been sitting, waiting for an alternate solution. So the auction that's happening now, only through the month of August, we've created it in a virtual space. Galabid is what's allowing us to essentially have the same concept of these beautiful donated items laid out and displayed for you, and you can go in and bid on them and buy tickets for the raffle or just simply donate as you might have if you were attending our live event. And that in turn will help us to not only have some sort of fundraising solution, which was a massive deficit for us last year with the loss of that event, but also not have a bunch of beautiful pieces of art. And the quilt, you guys, is absolutely stunning. I'm having Julie drop it off to me over the weekend so that I can Vanna White it for you a little bit better and show you over the weekend in another video, like exactly what this incredible quilt is. So anyway, that way we can get these items out of our houses, right? Because they've been sitting, waiting for a solution for how to get connected with people who would appreciate them. And that's what's happening now in the Gala Bid site. So please go through that link and check it out. It's so far a fail, which is really discouraging for those of us that have been, working on this for months leading up to launching it. And that would be really terribly sad if we get to the end of the event and we only had 7 or 8 people who registered and bid and a whole lot of items that didn't move. So if you don't find anything that you're interested in, or you find problems with navigating the site, if there's a reason why it's not something that's drawing you in, let me know, because I would love to have that feedback and information in order to pivot and find an alternate solution that will work better for everybody. That would be an incredibly appreciated service that you could provide. It's just drop us an email or drop us a comment even here if that's convenient for you, wherever it works best. You can even send a DM to the page. You'll get the autoresponder that pops up and tells you that's not how to communicate with us, but you can still send a DM to the page to say, hey, this is why it's just really not resonating with me or working for me, or why I didn't see anything that made me feel excited about, registering, signing up, getting involved, bidding on items, etc. But you never know. Maybe once you take a look, if you just haven't yet because you've been busy, then you might find something you're interested in. There's some really sweet stuff in there. Some of my top picks would be the Glassy Baby gift certificate. I'm a collector, so I particularly appreciate that one. And the quilt, as I mentioned, which is just beautiful. I'm going to get that in my hands over the weekend so that I can really show you how big it is, how gorgeous it is. That's an incredible handmade, several $100 value quilt. It's lovely. It's like little silhouette dog bones stitched into it. It's beautiful. So there's some really neat things in there. I'm trying to remember what else would be my top pick besides the Glassy Baby gift certificate and some of the art and different things. Really, just things that are sweet and fun and that potentially could be good for gift giving over the holidays. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, so let me go back to getting into Q&A for today. Thank you, Veronica. Appreciate that. So one of the questions had been, how do you deal with a dog that's recently become aggressive? And I just lacked a lot of detail, right? Okay, and you guys are just getting me really in the dark here. Can I pivot a little bit? There we go. My screen is easier to read this way too. Okay. And so in asking for more detail, it says, I recently adopted a dog that my sister had. He was an outside dog that was only brought in at night to sleep in a crate. He would go inside and try to play with her other dogs, although the little ones would always try to bite him. He would never bite back or act aggressive. My sister moved to a new home under construction, so he was kept inside. He started to show aggression when the other 2 dogs would come near us and attack. I ended up taking him while I stayed temporarily with my mother since he was getting really bad. Okay, so how old is this dog? What is the breed of this dog? Do we have any training, skills, control, manners on this dog? Does this dog understand how to walk politely on a leash? Do they have to wait for their food? Do they wait for permission to get on the furniture or come in, through the doorways? That he's bitten you twice while you tried to stop him from lunging, and once when you put your foot in front of the small dog. Poodle mix I recently got fixed, so he's been neutered recently. You were advised by one trainer to get him fixed, but it hasn't worked. Also told he's too old, 3 years to fix. Love him, want to give him a better life. Okay, Veronica, this is super helpful. Number one, it's bullshit that someone would tell you that neutering will resolve the behavior issue. It won't. Number 2, I don't understand anyone who says that it's too late to neuter the dog at 3. That's like the perfect time in a lot of cases. So I think you're getting some bogus, kind of just nonsense, uneducated advice in that regard. From a training standpoint, we will often say when a dog is physically and sexually mature, so they have had the benefit of their hormones to allow their growth plates to close, and they've had the hormones contribute to overall immune health, and their physiology is stable, then we want to see that neuter surgery take place, not too soon, not prior, because it puts your dog at extensive risk for late, health issues later in life. They're more likely to have, tendon and ligament tears. If their growth plates are not closed, you risk a lot of additional issues, and the development of the body on a whole does not manifest the way that it should. So I think that what you did was an excellent, choice, just in terms of removing some of the distraction and arousal component that's behind having all of those hormones. Having your dog altered, though, later in life is also ideal, because it means we've given him the best chance of development and maturity physically, so that we can prohibit potential issues long term. Okay, so great job, no issues that I see there. Doesn't have any training, but does know how to sit and wait, but will not hold any. Okay, so then no, he's not trained. So the picture that I see here is what I suspected, which is be very easy to cue in on and become hyper focused on the fact that dog is having dog to dog conflict or aggression issues, that he's reactive or defensive in these different scenarios with different dogs. And instead to miss the big picture scheme of things, which is that he does not have clarity of leadership and structure and rules and boundaries and what's expected of him. So what you're experiencing is more of a big picture and general dynamic of the dog being entitled, probably, and as well as uncomfortable and insecure and lacking in clarity of what it is that he's supposed to do and who has his back and who's managing and running the show. And if the dog is a dog with a temperament and a disposition that's one to take the dominant role, or the more of a leadership role, in the absence of it coming from a human or another solid dog, then you're going to see more of these types of dynamics where that dog corrects other dogs, is defensive towards territory, crate, area, doorways, yard, whatever. There could be different situations where that manifests, okay? And you're describing a situation for this dog where not only has he not been trained and not been given information to explain, this is how the world works and this is how you fit within it, and these are the rules, and this is what is and isn't acceptable, and there are consequences that you care about that hold you accountable, and we always follow through and show up and do what we say we're going to do. So not only has that not been provided, right, but he's also gone through a lot of instability. Transitioning locations, transitioning owners, transitioning environments where there is some chaos and, extra action going on around construction or whatever the humans are going through. These are all variables that this dog has been absorbing in the context of the environment and the relationship that he's been in. Does that make sense? So transitioning into your home after moving to a new place with your sister, these are all things that have added stress to this dog's world. These are all things that have amounted to some chaos and confusion and a lack of leadership and, information in the face of that will promote any dog that has, cracks in their foundation to fall apart. This is where you will see that stress applied and the gaps start to show up, okay? Walking the dog is a big struggle. You're embarrassed when walking him and have to be on guard and go out odd times when there's not that many dogs out. Thanks again, you're very welcome. Of course he's sweet. Of course he has a side to him that is an honest, honest and needy animal, right? That is doing its best to navigate what is happening around it and what it's confronted with. But you have to remember, this is a predator first and foremost. This is a canine that needs clarity and leadership and communication of expectations and boundaries. It needs structure, and it doesn't have that. It's not getting the information spelled out that it needs in order to be successful in the face of those extreme circumstances of stress and pressure and instability or anxiety, or even just where there's attitudinal dynamic, as I said, and it's feeling territorial or defensive, right? So this is why I said at the very beginning, it's easy for people to get hyper-focused on the reactivity or the aggression issue, but that's generally not where the problem ultimately exists. Because if we're fair to dogs, guys, we know and respect that they won't love everybody all the time any more than we do. They're not going to be socially close and bonded with and accepting of every dog they encounter. They generally will do best when they're raised up with other dogs, some exceptions being that, if we're putting females and females together and we have a more common scenario of conflict between them, or we have still a lack of leadership and accountability from the human side, or have dysfunction on the human side where there's a lot of reactivity and anxiety and stress and instability in the environment, we'll see the pack dynamic implode, right? But when we're blending dogs later on, when we haven't done our due diligence in the raising process of bringing them together, but we're blending them later on, or we're confronting an older dog who has already some deficits that I've articulated here and some challenges, and then we're expecting him to be accepting of other dogs who also probably do not have rules and boundaries and manners and accountability, who probably also are not stable, then it's a recipe for exactly what you experience. So don't get focused on the aggression. Don't get focused on the reactivity. I want you to get focused on the fact that this dog needs information to spell out its day. It needs to be told exactly what to do at all times, and it needs an increase of structure, and resources that will provide that would be the crate, teaching a place command, utilizing both of those things as management tools to help give this dog direction and a job and a task to be committed to and focused on and relaxed in, and to rely on as a safe space that's protected for that dog, but also that they are held accountable to stay in and continue to manage and maintain their own internal, energy and state as a result of being held accountable to staying in that place. Changing tools makes this extremely, more likely to be successful for you, especially when we're talking about the walk. So walking this dog, you said, is a hot mess express, and it's very limiting as to when you can even navigate going outside, avoiding, certain stimulus and distractions. There are a lot of people who will empathize with you here that have difficult dogs in that regard in terms of reactivity and their overall arousal and overstimulation being out in the world. But most of the time, that is not something that needs to continue. Most of the time, it is about changing tools and teaching the dog what is it that we want from them to do, what do we expect of them in the context of that migration. It's what I consider the walk to be. And we start by teaching that in the house, here, in this controlled, calm, simple, low stimulus environment. So if you're not using a crate, bring that into the mix or increase the use of it. I believe you're already utilizing that. You probably need to have the dog crated more than the dog is out. This is just about tipping the scales in the right direction attitudinally, tipping the scales in the right direction in terms of this dog's overall sense of calmness and comfort and awareness of your control of the environment and the situation. This dog needs to spend more time in there in order to decompress more routinely and have the ability to shed some of the, the chaos that it's absorbing and taking on around where things are not structured enough currently, okay? And then when you bring in things like a prong collar foundation, you start working with a tool this dog can actually hear better, a tool that can be perceived more accurately by your dog and responded to more effectively and immediately. It's a form of pressure that is more valuable to our dog. Then we can start utilizing that to clarify that when we go on a walk, we actually have a position we expect the dog to walk in. If you don't define the heel on the walk, of course you're going to have a dog that's all over the place and fixating on everything else or responding to everything else in the environment. We have to define our expectations and communicate them to our dogs in order for them to be successful at making the right choices. Certainly making different choices, right? And the process of defining something involves corrections when they get it wrong. So if we're teaching math and we say, this is how you do the math equation, right? And the child is like, nah, I'm going to go at it this way and come up with the wrong answer. If there isn't a correction for that, then what's the value in learning to do it correctly and getting the answer correctly to be successful, right? In this case of teaching what it is that we expect and need from the dog in these different situations, being proactive involves using the calmness and control and quiet, low stimulation of your in-home environment to teach and explain proactively, this is what heel means. This is the position that you walk in, no matter what's going on in the environment. Practicing and proofing that in this dynamic is what we do in board and train. We don't immediately go out on a walk and start asking a dog to navigate all of that stimulation, all of the arousal that's coming at them from odor that they're processing and the things that they see and hear. We do the work inside first. Then we take that foundation outside in order to create success and clarity where the stakes are higher, okay? So you need to define your expectations with this dog and not focus on the aggression piece. It will be something that will resolve and improve with time based on you becoming credible to your dog as a leader and the person who's managing the environment, no matter what the stimulus is that the dog encounters, okay? So teaching that position, teaching the proactive skill of being calm on command and turning off, essentially finding that Zen state like we teach with the place command. When you bring that into this dog's world, you're going to start shaping a skill and an ability for it to both accept boundaries and respect boundaries, as well as to be able to feel okay in his own skin and be calm, even if the other dogs are not. Even if they are not operating at the same level or under control, or your sister doesn't have the same goals, your dog is the one that you will have given the tools and the skill and the knowledge and the ability to navigate better despite whatever it is that it has to put up with in the environment rather than reacting to it, okay? So this is definitely one of those cases where we have a mature dog that's figured out over, 2.5, 3 years time that there isn't a leader, there isn't a credible source of information spelling out its days and dictating the environment and managing the pack as a whole. And so he's learned to compensate for that by taking charge in situations where he's inappropriately doing so with irrationality. All right, he's inappropriately making decisions and being reactive or defensive or territorial or attitudinal or anxious or uncomfortable and insecure because he's saying, hey, you're not proactively waking up in the morning and telling me this is how things work. This is how, it is to get access to the people in the environment or affection or food or freedom, or this is how it is to be able to, go for a walk and spend time out of the crate enjoying, exercise and playtime, right? Some of these other things. So I would just challenge you, Veronica, to not only see that there's a lack of balance in how some of those tools are utilized, the crate, actual training of this dog and giving this dog some skills that it can rely on and lean on that are going to be connected to it being successful socially, but more importantly that the relationship that you build through training effectively with this dog is what's going to help have the dog look to you in those times of struggle and stress and default to your lead when you say, you know what, I know that little dog is being obnoxious or, shitty or irritating to you, but you may not put your mouth on it. You may not be reactive and nasty towards that dog. You can remove yourself, but you may not be reactive and nasty towards that dog. So this is going to be a process for you of kind of stripping away and stopping operating from the place that you currently have been. That includes too much emotionality. too much feeling bad for the dog and seeing it having come out of a situation that you maybe have some judgments about, that it wasn't ideal or fair or the right situation, that you love the dog and want it to be happy. These are things that we have to emotionally distance ourselves from in order to create success when it comes to the attitudinal piece you're trying to resolve. The dog will otherwise know the energy that you carry around that emotionality, and they'll play to that. They absolutely perceive it. I'll give you, a really good example of this, a reflection of this week. I've worked with a couple clients this week in evaluations where, you have a dog that's extremely sensitive to pressure and energy, and you have humans in the environment with a whole lot of unsaid stuff. You've got humans in the environment who are at massive odds with one another because they've had, conflict around decisions that were not made unanimously. They have tremendous stress because their plate is too full. They are running a business, they are raising children, they are living in tight quarters. There is tremendous conflict and stress and these resentments and layers of things that have been built up, big picture, over a long period of time. And the dog is sitting in this soup, right? The dog is hanging out in this environment, perceiving the energy of that. You don't have to say a thing, and the dog is reading you like a book. They are feeling that energy and mirroring and responding to it with behavior that is very similar. Impulsive, reactive, defensive, anxious, insecure, and the list goes on. And so when we see behaviors like this taking place, the best thing we can do is actually very difficult for most people to do. It's to not get fixated on the cause. It's to not get fixated on necessarily the solution of the process. Like, what tool do I need? When do I give it a treat? How do I correct it? What is the diagnosis? Why is the dog doing this? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The best thing that we can do is take a couple, 3 steps back and broaden the lens and really look big picture. When did I get this dog? Why did I get this dog? When have I been in a situation like this before, where I felt the way that I feel in the relationship with this dog, right? The stress, the tension, the anxiety on me that I can't take a walk whenever I feel like it because my dog might blow up and embarrass me, or worse yet, hurt somebody or cause me to be hurt. If I start asking you, Veronica, about looking really deeply at your life as a whole and really honestly asking yourself, when have I felt this way before? The way that I feel when I can't control this dog. The way that I feel when I've been defeated and frustrated and embarrassed and stressed after a bad walk, a chaotic experience, trying to bring this dog out into the world or do something that I thought was showing love to this animal, and it just turned into a shit show. If you can be really authentic and sit in the feelings and become aware of how it even is in your body to have gone through those experiences, and then ask yourself, when else do I remember feeling like this? The thing is, and I had this conversation very intensely yesterday with some awesome clients. The thing is that when you ask yourself very truthfully those questions, and you honestly and authentically really look big picture at your life choices, you start to see your process come into focus. You start to see that you have a pattern potentially for trying to patch and fix and hold things together when it's not your job, maybe, or avoiding a pattern and a habit of avoiding getting to the heart of the matter and confronting things head on and setting healthy boundaries for yourself and standing up for yourself and what you deserve. And instead, maybe there's a habit like I used to have of people pleasing and dancing around things to try to keep everything working okay for everybody else and to avoid conflict or those explosions, right? Is it that there's a past of people pleasing or perfectionism or trying to have everything maintained in a sense of control that is absolutely impossible to achieve at all times, right? It's an illusion when we think that we can have everything under control. This is the type of work that I truly believe is the most powerful aspect of dog behavior education and the most impactful and successful component of dog behavior change and modification and or rehab. If we don't have a solid sense of responsibility around our ability to respond, the success we're going to see in changing that dog's behavior or arriving at the relationship we really want to have with them is going to be limited, right? Yeah, it is. I'm glad it's hitting home, Veronica, because that's the best way I can help you and everyone else who's walking through some of these things. That's the best way that my time can be valuable and impactful, and that I, in return, get to feel fulfilled in my work, right? Is when we're honest like this and we really look at what is the attraction that we have to bringing this kind of chaos into our lives. Because for most of us, it's an attempt unconsciously to understand and work through our shit. That's the reality. For most of us, we're not conscious of the fact that when we brought these animals into our world, it was because we were trying to fill a gap. We were trying to avoid an ownership and a feeling of something that's not so pleasant, that we'd really rather not feel and sit in and take responsibility for and process through because it seems too hard and uncomfortable, right? But what's ironic is, look at what we do. We bring in this chaos because we got another dog and we have too many dogs, or we got a difficult dog because we didn't do the right research and we didn't have good process around getting advice and support and help in the first place, or we tried to save our sister and get them out of a difficult situation by removing the dog, or we were judging them. I've been guilty of this. I've taken dogs from family members because I was like, you fucking suck. You aren't doing right by this animal. I can do it better than you, right? And it, worked out fine, but it doesn't always. And that attitude, regardless of how you slice it, is not the way to approach anything in life successfully. It catches up with you at some point, right? So the best way that we can help our animals is and see that, reciprocal support and help and growth in ourselves is this truthful work. It's this honest, authentic look at the big picture. What is my process? What is my habit and my default and my pattern for how I attack things in my life? And where did I bring that into this dynamic? Did I rush the situation? Did I make a decision at a time when I really didn't have the space and the resources or the tools or knowledge to provide what was needed here? The good news is, as soon as you do this, guys, you get clarity, you now can go after the resources that you need, right? You now can go after hiring somebody who can do that professional heavy lifting for you. And you can just accept the consequence of the cost of investment, right? Or you can accept the consequence of, this is going to take longer than I thought it would. And I'm going to learn from this in the future that it's not worth cutting corners because I pay for it in the long run with an extra amount of work on myself. Do you see what I'm getting at? Comment and let me know that this is landing and helpful for you guys, because this is a big component of dialogue this week within the client community of people that I was meeting with and working with. It was a very, very deep and difficult dialogue that we went into from this place exactly yesterday with one of my clients. And it really became about recognizing where, often we are not taught to calculate the cost of our process. We are not taught to calculate the cost of how we hurt other people or how we in turn hurt ourselves in the long term by doing things unconsciously like this. And that the dog often is just the catalyst for telling us the truth, mirroring that information that, hey, you go after things that you want without, thinking through, or you're impulsive, you're reactive, you're defensive, you're selfish, You know, this is the truth of human nature, the things that we bump up against, right? We've all got that shit on some level. Nobody is exempt and perfect, period. But if you want harmony, if you're coming to me saying, I don't want to stay up at night thinking about what am I going to do with this dog. I don't want to, move through the world with stress and discomfort and chaos that I can't walk my dog whenever I feel like it because I don't have control. They don't respect me. They don't listen to me. They're stressed out and uncomfortable. Then we've really got to look at it from this angle so that we can shift the energy and the attitude in the environment as much as we apply new tools and strategy and instruction to our dog, right? It's going to take all of that in order to create the change that you're looking for. So hopefully I gave you some tangible things to do beyond the abstract big picture therapizing that we did. But both are going to be really important. And if I were you, Veronica, if the dog's not had at a minimum, prong collar foundation. A prong collar is an awesome tool to start with to give you more credibility and leverage in the directions and explanations of your expectations you share with this dog. Keep a leash on when the dog is out at all times so that, again, you can hold its hand and answer to the choices that it makes and spell out its day. When we get dogs here and board and train, the magic of the heavy lifting that we do and the amount of transformation that we can create, even though they're all so very different, is because there's so much structure. Nothing is free. The dog is not free. The dog is not unattended ever. When they are free to make their own choices and roam about the cabin, we are standing by, watching, waiting, answering to every choice they make. So they get information at all times, reinforcement or correction, right? That's why over 24 hours, 7 days a week, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever the timeline is, the dog is just like, oh, got it. That's not allowed. That is. That's what they want me to do. That's off limits. Got it. The anxiety levels go down. The confidence goes up in the right way. And the partnership and the relationship and the connection deepens and deepens and deepens. And it's extraordinary how much people comment. This happens to all of the trainers on our team. It's amazing how much people will comment about how bonded the dog is to us, the trainer, at the end of that time frame. Even if they're very difficult or picky or nervous or insecure or not excited to work, they connect and bond and are attracted to and respectful of that leadership clarity. So we need to get you in the driver's seat as the leader in your home for this animal. We need to get you connected with the fact that if you're not spelling out the day and giving answers and information to every choice this dog makes, you're abandoning it and leaving it to guess, and that's not fair, okay? We don't want to do that if our goal is to create calmness and control and confidence and stability and to have connection and respect and trust in the relationship that we share with our dogs, okay? So get that foundation going around, increasing the crate use if necessary, teaching some sort of concept of place. There's plenty of tutorials. April's dropping some great links in here in the comments for you that are our standard, video tutorials. They're not perfect, but they're old, they're out there, they work. They'll give you some information and concepts. I got plenty of catching up to do when it comes to beefing up that channel. And let me know how it goes. All right. Fix It Friday used to be my favorite thing when we would have a split screen live conversation interaction. We still have the ability to do that with the Be Live software. So another option for us, Veronica, would be to have follow-up chat in a couple of weeks and share that conversation in a split screen dynamic so that I can get more real-time engagement with you and information about how things are going and where you arrive at that point. That would be awesome. So know that invitation stands, okay? The other question that had come up was to do with April senior dog. So April, you were asking me about supporting your Hound mix, whose hearing is going, and some of the challenges that are existing with the other dogs in the home, surprising that dog sometimes by coming up into its space, maybe it's sleeping or what have you. My experience and perspective on this, it's admittedly limited. The last senior dog I had in my home passed away about 2.5 years ago. Luca was incredible. He was a legend. Many of you knew of him if you've been following the page for a while. He was a Boston Frenchie pug mix, and we used to call him a cat in a dog suit. He actually had a Facebook page, Luca Chronicles of the Disappointed Dog. It's still up. I haven't taken it down. But he was a hoot and a half. And as he aged, he absolutely lost his hearing. He, some of his faculties were going or not as strong as they once were. I always love when dogs lose their hearing because in general, it typically means less barking, less reactive, right? They tend to sleep more. And I have personally owned deaf dogs, genetically deaf dogs, in the past as well. And I think it's kind of fun because you don't have a lot of the same challenges that, your hyper alert, overly amped, aroused, young dog will throw at you. With that said, we do want to manage stress as much as possible on our senior dogs because stress is very toxic to the system. It can contribute to them aging faster and getting sick. Pardon me, I need some water. So in order to do that in a busy household with a lot of other, pets and people, you had asked about increasing the crate use, and I would say yes, that would be one of the most fair things that I would endeavor to do for my deaf dog is either increase the crate use or block off and provide more secluded area that dog can spend the majority of their time so that they are essentially advocated for and given the space to fully relax and not live in a constant state of stress that they might be bumped into or surprised and woken up when they're not expecting it. There are some other tools and resources out there that you can utilize that will actually, for a blind dog, the halo, right, that helps them to feel when they bump into something rather than hitting it with their face. They maneuver with the halo on. In this case, there are some strategies around tools like that would allow your other dogs to bump into that resource, that material, before the dog is physically, they're kind of up on its business. But I think that, what's most reasonable and natural is going to be just to carve out space to where you're putting your dog away. You're giving them more time in the crate. You're giving them, again, more structure, kind of like how we often see dogs that are aging have to return to kind of puppy management strategies. Circle of life comes all the way around. Because they need to go to the bathroom more frequently, or they have, more stress or anxiety or insecurity about change, and, they're struggling a little bit more like they did maybe when they were a puppy and didn't have the life skills built yet. We want to always think about bringing back more structure, more discipline, and advocacy around routine. That's really helpful. So a little bit of quality time goes a long way, and then put that dog away and allow them to be, separate from the action so they're not living in a constant state of stress. Another way to help mitigate that stress might be to get this dog on some sort of CBD, THC product, a 1-to-1 oil like we typically will, recommend for folks for dogs that it's appropriate to help with various issues of anxiety or just stress on the immune system. You might want to think about bringing something like that into supplement the diet here, where that will help just encourage a little bit more calmness in the nervous system and relax that animal that is otherwise feeling a little extra sensitive, dealing with an extra level of stress. The, best thing for our dog to lose is probably their sight, but hearing is also not, too terribly awful. As a byproduct of aging, they can overcome that and learn to, manage and navigate it. As I said, it often means there's less reacting, barking, being stimulated and bothered by the things that they once were hearing all the time and responding to is not so much an issue anymore. But I think in your case, with a busy household, kids, dogs, lots of other activities and action going on, it's just going to be about respecting that dog might need a little bit more advocacy and space. And what can I do to add, calmness for the nervous system and to overall support that dog in being able to relax even when it doesn't know where I am or what's going on exactly. So those are the two main things that come to mind for me as a recommendation in this case. But I would turn to the community from here and say, if anyone has experience, coming up with other successful solutions for supporting your dogs who are going through hearing loss or have lost their hearing late stage. We're not talking about a genetically deaf dog. We're talking about a dog that once had all its faculties and is now hitting that 10, 12, 14-year age range and, losing its hearing and getting a little more confused or stressed or overstimulated when it's bumped into by a dog it didn't hear coming and things like that. What have you done? What's worked? You might help contribute by commenting in here and just sharing your experience for anyone like April who's going through that. Because as I said at the top of the broadcast, every dog is a little bit different. And, at the same time, in general, we put ourselves in their shoes. What will be the most supportive is going to be routine and structure and, advocacy for their space. Put them away, carve a separate space if you're not crating or not, for whatever reason, wanting to use a crate too extensively, but you have the room and the real estate to give them their own, sort of protected space. And then keep an eye on how do they do in that context, because I think sometimes we worry more that the dog is struggling at a level that they're not necessarily. And it's important when you start to make those adjustments and changes that you actually watch for signs and symptoms. If the dog is doing actually better or worse, maybe they're lonely, maybe they appreciate being a part of the pack, even though it's also difficult for them. There's kind of some metaphors there that I think we can relate to as people. So, be careful about watching for that and being able to be objective. Again, emotionally objective is, does my dog actually feel better that I'm restricting these things, that I'm removing a lot of the stimulus or, creating more structure and thinking that I'm carving out this more comfortable space for them. But in reality, they're actually struggling with not being a part of the action. You want to be mindful to watch for the information, signs and symptoms that come back at you about that. Based on the dog's behavior. Okay. I think that's it for us today. Did I cover it all? Again, please check out the auction, guys. It'd be such a major bummer if we hit the end of the month and it's just a complete and total flop. I can't even tell you. I'll probably cry. But that's also because I was so sick last week, which was so discouraging, so frustrating. And it meant that I couldn't give you more energy around Vanna whiting these items that we have and getting you pumped up about this event. And I felt like I just lost, 7 to 10 days to coughing and hacking and not being able to breathe. And it was horrible, especially because I have such an enormous workload with the amount of dogs I have right now. But that's why you haven't heard from me, because all I could do was get up and train all day and go back to bed. So everybody learned everything they needed to here. They're all doing really well. And I've got one more week to go before my batch graduates out. Carrie Ann's on vacation right now, and then she'll start back to a bunch more great action. How awesome has her content been lately? You guys, did you see her detection video that she shared of Junie? That was really, really, really cool. Carrie Ann's been creating a lot of awesome content and sharing a lot of action from the North End location. She's up in Lake Elsinore. And then Emily, EC Dog Training. Emily is our Colorado trainer. She's got Hope 2 Canine Colorado, and EC Dog Training is her personal brand. You got to follow her on Instagram. She's just killing it. She's absolutely, putting out some really fun content and starting to gear up to be ready to provide board and train and one-on-one programs out in Colorado. So definitely check her out. We have a part of our website dedicated to information about her programs and services. So if you know anybody in Colorado, hit us up, send them over to the website, because we can help them out there now. And they'll be very lucky to get to connect with Emily and all her skills and all the great work that she does. That's the same programs that you see us doing out here in Southern California. So I'm going to take off, guys, speaking of, and get back to it. I got dogs waiting for their lessons today. And as always, if you have questions like this and there's any way that I can support you in the absence of your accessing us, directly, or being able to get connected with a trainer and invest in programs professionally, please don't hesitate to send your questions. Pretty much every week we prompt and ask around Monday or Tuesday for you to submit your Fix It Friday questions. So you can do that on our social media platforms, or you can always email them to April. It's just April@hope2canine.com. You can put in the subject line Fix It Friday and then draft out your question. Give me as much detail as you can. I always love nice, juicy, explicit descriptions and stories. So feel free to submit those at any time, and she'll just compile them for me every time I get ready to sit down to do a show like this, so I can share what perspective I might be able to offer and insights and advice, and hopefully give you guys a launching point for creating the change and the success and result that you're looking for, okay? But thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you hanging out and watching, and I'm looking forward to continuing to feel so much better. Oh, so much better. That was not fun to have that summer cold. All right, gang, take good care. I'll talk to you later. Bye for now.